Alright, I know the way how I titled this video seems a little bit clickbaity because it's kind of true. Futuristic Call of Duty, when the series went to that route, made a lot of money even with the games and supply drops as Call of Duty was still going strong. But it did not do well with the critic reception and well with a lot of fans. I mean a lot of fans because Infinite Warfare is still the most disliked Call of Duty trailer of all time. It's only the trailer though, but it's not the worst Call of Duty game. That goes to Call of Duty Vanguard. The reason for the many dislikes for the trailer was that many people were tired of the futuristic setting for the Call of Duty franchise. As well, in a technical sense, it was its third time using the new futuristic setting. Many people back in the day were begging for it to go back boots on the ground. And so every disgruntled fan and people that were tired of the futuristic setting got their anger out on the Infinite Warfare trailer and breaking records with it with the dislike ratio. And also too, in a funny way, Battlefield 1, Call of Duty's rival, Battlefield 1 trailer released and it became the most liked trailer for that year in 2016. Now this might be a little bit different from my usual Call of Duty Zombies content, but I still want to branch out no matter what. So for today's video, I'm going to be looking at the 3 big things that all these 3 futuristic Call of Duties had in common and the reason that made people get tired of the futuristic setting. The big 3 main points, in my opinion, that killed the whole futuristic setting for Call of Duty in all entirely, and they will never come back to it. But before I talk about those 3 main points, I want to say something about my channel first. In my Black Ops 2 video, I started a sub-goal. The sub-goal was to hit 5k, so when I hit that mark, I'm going to do a Q&A stream, as it will be my first stream for this channel. Well, I think I want to hit it around towards the end of August, so practically in 2 months. I would prefer if I hit it earlier. Right now I'm sitting at 2k subscribers, so I would appreciate any new viewers or any returning viewers who subscribe right now, and to check out my other stuff too. But with that out of the way, let's go back into the video. So I think for the big major thing that the reason Futuristic Call of Duty didn't work with a lot of fans was the movement system. As for all 3 of the games, they have different types of movement system. Advanced Warfare was the first one to completely change the movement system for Call of Duty. But there's a big reason why Call of Duty moved to this new movement system. There's one game and one of the best franchises ever, Titanfall, changed the whole game of the whole movement system. Now more talking about the first Titanfall game, not the one that only came out for PC and the Xbox One. Titanfall completely changed the whole game of FPS with the whole movement system for multiplayer and basically everything else. It's practically Titanfall on a whole new franchise became a mainstream thing and became a huge sensation, combining mechs and combining the whole pilot thing with the new movement system that it created. As the movement system was very fast paced and a lot of players liked this. Now I even like this too. Titanfall is still one of my best favorite franchises for FPS shooters, and also too for the fast paced shooters too. And well, since something does really good for another game, a lot of companies are gonna copy the same type of style from that game and put it into their series. And Call of Duty wanted that piece of the pie too. And it's kinda ironic because the creators of Titanfall and Respawn Entertainment were from Infinity Ward, and they're the ones that created the first Modern Warfare game. But anyways, Titanfall completely changed the whole genre in FPS shooters, and for multiplayer too, making everything fast paced. So with the first new COD game that takes place in the future, as well as the sci-fi setting really worked out for Black Ops 2, and they kinda want to replicate it too for the new game of franchise that Sledgehammer Games was gonna do, as this was Sledgehammer Games' second game to work on the Call of Duty franchise, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. As Call of Duty completely abandoned the modern type of setting, as Ghost really didn't do well with the fans, as many consider it one of the most disappointing CODs back in the day. So many people were kind of hyped for Advanced Warfare, as this was the first time Call of Duty jumping into the full sci-fi setting and completely changing the movement system, no longer going boots on the ground. And when I was young, I was kind of excited for it too, as well I like Call of Duty and anything that has to do with sci-fi or futuristic stuff. And when the game released, well, many players didn't like most of the things about Advanced Warfare. And also I didn't like Advanced Warfare back in the day. It has to do with the movement system and mainly what has to do with multiplayer, as many players were spoiled about Titanfall and that amazing movement system. So I think many people like me were expecting it to be something similar to that, but it wasn't. It could even compare to Titanfall at all. It seemed like more of a poor man's version of Titanfall, as you couldn't run and you had to mostly use your exosuit for jumping and boosting around. But with this, at least you could boost around in any direction. So the developers intended how they wanted to do it, making it fast-paced, as Advanced Warfare was fast-paced. But oh boy, for multiplayer, this did not translate very well. So I remember back in the day, so many people were bunny hopping everywhere. It was kind of annoying to keep playing multiplayer for Advanced Warfare. But I do have to say, Advanced Warfare had a kind of good multiplayer. By the time I played it, I think I stopped playing around when the first DLC came out for it. But I just dropped the game and went back to Titanfall. But back to Sledgehammer Games, as this was their first Call of Duty game what they wanted to start a franchise with. Many people were mixed about the game as it was considered mediocre back in the day, and I think it's still considered mediocre. It had a lot to do with the campaign and the other stuff too, as it was just some generic Call of Duty game with just an advanced movement system and that was it. But to some people, they thought about this. And for Activision, this was their second time trying to start a franchise with Call of Duty and it didn't do well, as Ghost tried to spawn a franchise and well, many people didn't like that, so they naturally did not get the sequel. But Advanced Warfare almost got a franchise and the sequel got cancelled. So Sledgehammer Games had to rework that sequel into World War II, which was another mediocre series they made. So this was their first time going in with the new sci-fi setting and the new movement system that they wanted to put into the games. Even though it was mediocre, it did sell really well. 21 million copies, and you already know this as Call of Duty is a very popular franchise and people are going to go out and buy it no matter what. So Activision was going to keep on with the futuristic setting, with Black Ops 3, the next series that continued the trend, and also the sequel to Black Ops 2. Or well, kind of, the campaign doesn't even relate to it at all. But with the movement system for Black Ops 3, it was kind of neutered. As you compare the movement system from Black Ops 3 to Advanced Warfare, well, they're a day and night difference. For Black Ops 3, you feel a little bit slower compared to Advanced Warfare. Advanced Warfare, you feel much faster and have more able to control in any direction. But for Black Ops 3, you felt very limited, in my opinion. You don't have the same exact control as you did in Advanced Warfare. As for Black Ops 3, you don't really feel like a futuristic soldier. You feel more limited, like you were neutered, not able to do most of the stuff you can, like you did in Advanced Warfare, even with some of the wall running. And also too, there was a meter that limited your factor of when you could jump, boost, or even wall run. But for the multiplayer for Black Ops 3, a lot of people love the multiplayer. They consider it as another classic, and is way more rememberable than Advanced Warfare multiplayer. But for me, I did not like Black Ops 3 multiplayer. I hated it, as Black Ops 3 back in the day was one of my childhood disappointment games ever. As I didn't like the campaign, I didn't like multiplayer, the only two things I liked from this game were Dead Officer K2 and zombies. That was about it, and I was already tired of the futuristic setting as now it was getting oversaturated. Many games are trying to copy more of the sci-fi setting and not going to the traditional modern sense or even in the past. For the movement system for Black Ops 3, as I felt more constricted by it, it did not feel like anything like Titanfall, as I think many players were exactly looking for a Titanfall type of style of movement. But there was the other side of that many players wanted to go back to boots on the ground and modern setting, as the movement system was too drastic for Call of Duty as it really didn't fit it in a type of way. And I agree with his criticisms because with some of the maps for Black Ops 3 and Advanced Warfare, none comes to my head of which one are memorable from those era, as the map designs are really overhauled to change to the new movement system, but in a way they don't feel really good, as to me for some of the maps you feel very limited and you're not able to move anywhere. You don't really have the freedom in order to move around the map. And these maps were kind of small in my opinion and they really weren't large. And that really didn't accommodate to the new movement system. And like again, I'm going to compare it to the Titanfall again. For those type of maps, those were big and accommodate to the movement system. It had a perfect balance between the both. But when Call of Duty didn't, it really didn't have it. Some of them were still trying to stick to the old design of the 3-lane maps and the other things too. But they had to change it in order to accommodate the new movement system, but they didn't. With all these complaints and critiques of Black Ops 3, it was still one of the most sold Call of Duty games, and it was seen favorable in the futuristic setting that it did. Around the time when Black Ops 3 was already finished its game cycle, many fans were already getting tired of the movement system of jumping around and the futuristic setting. What didn't help with it is that with the fast-paced setting with every trying to copy it, it became oversaturated. And with Call of Duty releasing a yearly game back-to-back, many people were getting tired of the futuristic setting by the end of Black Ops 3's game cycle. So there was a melting pot waiting to blow up, and that happened with Infinite Warfare. So many people skipped the game altogether. Everyone was tired of the futuristic setting, so they just went hands off for this game and went to play other games like Battlefield 1 or Titanfall 2. Infinite Warfare still received a lot of hate as people were already tired of the futuristic setting and already want a Call of Duty game to go back boots on the ground. Because Infinite Warfare kept on the same design style with the whole advanced movement system. But I haven't played Infinite Warfare, and from what I heard from some of my friends and seen the gameplay, it seems similar to the movement system of Black Ops 3. So you don't really have the same type of freedom as you do in the other games that done the same style as these other games did. But Call of Duty had to change something because people were already tired of this and people wanted to go back to the same old style. And that happened with such other games with Call of Duty World War II. Since, well, Advanced Warfare 2 got cancelled, so they just made World War II. Ever since Call of Duty World War II, it's always been boots on the ground. As with Black Ops 4 release, it was boots on the ground even though it's futuristic. But that doesn't count for these type of games, I'm not sure, because it doesn't have that same movement system as the others. But the major thing that completely revamped the whole movement system, which perfectly blend both of the things, was Modern Warfare 2019 reboot. Call of Duty has been keeping this movement system ever since Modern Warfare 2019, and many players rejoice this new movement system as it perfectly blends with Call of Duty. But to me, I think Advanced Warfare was the only system that got it right. Well, kind of right. It did give you a sense of you being a futuristic soldier, but it didn't give you the sense of freedom like it did from other games. And with Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare, they toned down on the sense of freedom, restricting you more. So I think this is one of the reasons why many people didn't like the futuristic setting for Call of Duty. I know people were tired of the sci-fi setting, but I feel like that was a small minority group. There was just other bigger problems that overshadowed the whole sci-fi setting, and the movement system is one of them. There's another big thing that a lot of players didn't like during this era, and that has to do with the microtransactions. And I'm mainly talking about, for our next topic, supply drops. The supply drop era for Call of Duty was coinciding with the futuristic era of Call of Duty 2, as they were both born at around the same time, as the first supply drop system started with Advanced Warfare. This was around the time when microtransactions were picking up in the gaming industry, as practically every mainstream game needed a microtransaction system. Either had to do with skins, camos, or something else entirely. And one of the main proponents that started this system was EA with the FIFA packs, and well, it was gaining traction as it made them a lot of money. So other game companies started to copy the same thing of what to do for their system of almost like a supply drop system. And for Activision, they did it with Advanced Warfare. Advanced Warfare was the first one to implement the system, as there was two packs you could buy, the simple supply drop or the advanced supply drop. Now for the supply drop system for Advanced Warfare, you could earn them through challenges. By playing the game or leveling up, you can earn a regular supply drop. Now at the beginning of Advanced Warfare, these were all cosmetics, so I think people were fine with these cosmetics being locked behind a paywall. Well, some people, as some people just want the challenge in order to unlock them instead of just paying for them. That was mostly the viable solution to get most of everything, is just buying the supply drops, as you had to really play the game like no tomorrow. You basically had to know life the game if you wanted to earn a lot of supply drops, but this was just a regular one, as an update came out and they added advanced supply drops. Now you could earn these normally by leveling up, but the most better solution was to just straight up buy them, as you had more of a chance getting rare items or even a large quantity of items, as you got 3 items now. As with the regular supply drop, you only get 1 or 2. But now they were starting to add guns to the game, and these were DLC weapons. Now some came free or some came with the DLC when you buy one. But there was another system they put that you unlock variants through the supply drop system. And that was the only way to unlock variants, was to buy them from the supply drops or earn them. Some of these guns are locked behind the supply drop system. You can't even try them out or in private match, you have to unlock them first by buying them or earning them. But everyone know that you had to buy the supply drops to get more of a better chance unlocking everything. And most of these supply drops were really expensive. For one advanced supply drop they cost $2, but many of these supply drops had bundles, so you could buy 28 supply drops for $40. So in the gambling mechanic, you have more of a chance getting rare items. But the thing is, you wanted to get that one item, but if you didn't, you had to buy more. Some of these variants put the players at an advantage. This goes to in line with my next section where I talk about meta-ness and whole sweatiness that came with the futuristic setting. But there were just straight up overpowered variants in these supply drops. And well, it seemed more of a pay-to-win mentality, as many people don't have a lot of time to put hours into the game, so they're just gonna buy the supply drops. Or for some people, as you know, as I was one of them too, Call of Duty is very popular with the younger demographic. And there was already established Call of Duty YouTubers, like for one example I'm gonna use with Merc Music, as he bought a lot of supply drops for his videos. And he had a younger demographic. Now when we are kids, we are impressionable. We get influenced by the things we like, and what we see of a famous person that we like, we tend to follow that trend. So with the many YouTubers buying and uploading videos of opening a lot of supply drops, it made a lot of kids want to get their parents' credit card in order to buy a lot of supply drops just to get that one item, or to get a large quantity of cosmetics, or either get that variant to give them an edge into the game. I did not follow this trend, I only did this with Black Ops 3, never with Advanced Warfare. But I didn't waste my parents' credit card on Black Ops 3 as I only bought a couple supply drops, which was I think around 6 supply drops, and I just gave up. But this whole monetary system made a shit ton of money for Call of Duty and Activision. There was a lot of people keep buying supply drops just to get that one item, in a sense practically making the game a casino slot machine. As most of these drops were even unfair, you had to really believe in RNGs in order to get that one item, and well, you didn't, so you had to buy more. So it gave you the gambler's mentality, and a lot of kids were influenced. I know some of my friends just kept buying so many supply drops just to get that one item, and many others too. This was a horrible trend in gaming as practically it turned a lot of kids into gamblers. This whole system got a lot of critics, and Call of Duty was not just the only one. A lot of games did also too the loot box system of the supply drops. It got heavily criticized because most of these practices were very predatory, as they were mostly targeting young and impressionable kids. And what also didn't help was that the YouTubers making a lot of content out of the supply drops buying a lot. Even though some of them did say do not buy them, they're only for this and that as they're able to afford it, it still influenced a lot of kids to use their parents' credit card in order to buy these supply drops. With Activision oversaturating the market with a lot of cosmetics and everything else, it was definitely harder to get the weapon you want, so it made you want to buy more. But after Advanced Warfare, the system did get a little bit better as there was other extra ways in order to unlock supply drops, but they came later in the game cycles, like for example Black Ops 3. At the first time when it released, it was only just cosmetics, but with a couple updates they started to add DLC weapons that were already in the game but already locked behind a paywall, and well, you had to buy supply drops in order to get them. In a certain edition you could buy a weapon bribe and you'll get one guaranteed weapon, but that was it. It wasn't even a ranged weapon or a melee weapon. You just had a random chance to just get a weapon, and well, you had to pray for the RNG in order to get what you want. That's the only way you could use it, as if you go in private match there is no way to use these weapons, so you cannot even test them out at all to see if they're good or not. The only way you can do it is by watching a YouTube video, hearing a YouTuber talking about how good the weapon is or how crap it is, or you could just buy an eternal supply of supply drops and get lucky to get that one thing you want. So in a sense, like I said earlier, a complete casino slot machine. And many people during this time were pointing out that there was a lack of guns when the game released. They were comparing it to the older CODs that you had many more weapons to choose from, but since the futuristic setting COD games, there was less weapons. And when the DLC weapons started to roll out, you had to get them through the monetary system. So people naturally felt copped out by the game. They already spent $60 on it, and then they had to spend more just to unlock that weapon that was already in the game files, but Activision completely locked it behind by a paywall. It made no sense at all, and other games too around this time for the mainstream were doing the same thing with the whole loot drop system. It became oversaturated and there was a lot of critics of it, but nothing was being done by it yet, as Infinite Warfare continued the trend and adding variants in it too, just like Advanced Warfare. So doubling the amount of saturation of how much things you need to buy for the loot drop system. And like with all these 3 games, these were old weapons. These weren't new. Most of them were old weapons from old games, and then you had to repay for them again in order to unlock them. It just felt more of an insult to the player. But Infinite Warfare had a better system than Black Ops 3, as when you have duplicates you were able to gain salvage, and you were able to buy the variant from the salvage as what you got from the loot drop, so already a duplicate, and you got more currency in order to buy the thing you want. But it depends on what type of rarity you got. If you got a common, you're gonna get a little salvage. If you got rare, well, you're gonna get a lot of salvage. Black Ops 3 did have this system but with the crypto keys, but you got a certain amount of duplicate bonuses. And same with Advanced Warfare from Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare, the only best viable solution in order to get everything you want was to pay for it. So it just reinforced the pay to win motive around these games. That same became normal around the COD games as the supply drop system became the main focus for these type of games. As again, Activision made a shit ton of money with the monetary system. We're making more than the actual sales of the game because how much people were paying for them. But naturally gamers got mad about this whole monetary system as we were getting copped out. Because these things were not really new content, they were just old content locked behind the paywall. And also too, the government started to step in, seeing how these were similar to casinos. It became a big talk around this era as that they wanted to ban supply drops from every type of game, as there was talks in Congress and other people's governments too. Activision had to toe down with the supply drop system. Now it did continue on with World War II and Black Ops 4. I think back in the day World War II had the best system in order to unlock supply drops, as you mostly had to pay the game to unlock contracts in order to get those type of supply drops. And for Black Ops 4, I'm not sure about that, that one didn't have a good one as World War II. And that one too, I think people got pissed with that as you had supply drops and you had the battle pass, so you had to pay for two things. But thank God the supply drop era was gone, as it ended with Black Ops 4, as Modern Warfare 2019 was planning to have it but replaced it with the battle pass system, which is way better. But the monetary system, what they did for the supply drops, definitely did hurt the case for most of these futuristic games, as they became the main identity for them. So that was the second reason why many people didn't like these type of games. Now for the third reason was the sweatiness when Call of Duty was starting to become more mainstream than ever before. And also too, most of these things have pay-to-win motives. So for the third final part, we're going to talk about some of the sweatiness and the meta-ness that happened for these type of games, as they got worse with each type of game. Now for the sweatiness, is in my opinion, Call of Duty got worse with the sweatiness when it started around with Advanced Warfare. As back in the day, Call of Duty was just an arcadey multiplayer type of game. No one really cared if you were good or not. If you were, oh well, you didn't mostly get most of the attention and most of these people got made fun of. Now of course, trick shots were very popular and quick scopes, and well, that was very popular too. And also too with the rise of FaZe Clan. Call of Duty started to become more competitive. Now there was a separation from the both. There was more the casual players and there was more the competitive players, as more the competitive players would play rank play. But what also too would help with the old games is that they were balanced. Black Ops 2, Modern Warfare 3, Modern Warfare 2 were really balanced and alright. There was hardly of meta weapons that were in those type of games. I know for Modern Warfare 2 there was noob tubes and one-man army, but to me when I used to play those games when I was young, there was hardly anyone using them. Now when you do see a person using that type of meta-ness, well, I remember back in the day that person would get shit-talked to hell. Also with the other thing too is people were naturally having fun with this. Since it was more arcadey, there was a lot of stuff that many people goofed off around. It was hardly any competitive. But with the rise of esports, in my opinion, I think it negatively impacted Call of Duty. Since Call of Duty was more of a casual game and more like a sit-down, arcadey type of multiplayer game, it naturally got more competitive. As esports became super popular and these guys were getting famous for playing a lot of games in a very competitively way. Now that's cool and all, I'm not really a big hater of esports. The only thing I hate is that everyone tried to naturally be the next big thing. So many people were try-harding so hard in every other game. And this spread to Call of Duty, as in my opinion, it started with Advanced Warfare. So I remember playing the game for the multiplayer, so many people were bunny hopping, and the constant use of meta weapons in Advanced Warfare, as a lot of people were using the BAL-27 or the ASM-1, as those guns became overused. And with the whole movement system too not really helping with it, with some of the map designs, and what led more to be more competitiveness. And in my opinion, I know Call of Duty's been super toxic since Modern Warfare 2. I think the whole competitiveness nature led to more of the toxicity growing ever more. That's more of a small footnote, and it's mostly talking about some of the overused weapons and meta weapons too. Since with the supply drop system, with the variant system for Advanced Warfare, there was the BAL Obsidian Steel that was one of the best weapons and best variants in Advanced Warfare. There was other variants too that were good too, but in order to get them, you had to play the game to hell, almost no life in it, or either just pay the huge bundle pack and get a lot of supply drops and hopefully get lucky to get that weapon or variant. Thank God I dropped the game after the first DLC came out. But like I said earlier in the supply box section, it was more of a pay-to-win motive. Just continue on the same thing with Black Ops 3. And then for Black Ops 3, there was the natural meta weapon that practically was overused, was the Brecci. As you basically didn't even need to aim down sights, you could just run around and shoot everyone, and you could kill them in 2 hits. I know there was another gun, I think the VMP was the other one that got overused a lot, but I might be wrong on that. You guys can correct me in the comments. But we're not even taking into account for some of the DLC weapons too, as some of them were also good too, and also the melee weapons. But for me, I did play the Black Ops 3 multiplayer, and it was one of my least favorite multiplayers in COD history. I remember exact memory when I played it the first day it came out, and the couple days I played it when I got back to school. It's me seeing a Master Prestige person that was level 200, and the game just barely came down. I know I might be over exaggerating because there's some holes in that memory, but this guy was a higher level. There was other higher levels too, but this made me drop the game altogether in the first week. It became too sweaty and became too competitive just for me. Always missed the old era of Call of Duty when it was just arcadey fun. Not everyone was just playing it just to be super competitive. I think me saying that, I think a lot of people are going to say skill issue in the comment section. Oh well. But Black Ops 3 did have a balancing issue, same thing with Advanced Warfare, as there was a lot of updates just to balance some of the weapons. I remember one certain update that they took a long time was to fix the jitter mod for the Brecci, and it took a very long time just to fix that one issue. But still, many COD fans still consider Black Ops 3 one of the best in the futuristic setting in the multiplayer. And lastly, for Infinite Warfare, that also too kept in trend with the whole balancing issues. As for that game, the most overused weapon was called the MV4, and I think that one was the assault rifle, but that was completely overused in that game. Also too, there was a variant for that weapon that made it overpowered. So there's the whole pay to win mode of going back again. Now, I didn't play the Infinite Warfare multiplayer as I completely skipped that game, but I did hear some of the constant issues it did have with some of the weapon balancing, and I have no clue if the game was sweaty or not. But this third reasoning is more of my personal opinion as why people didn't like this era of Call of Duty. But I'm more confident with the other two reasons why many people didn't like the whole era. But anyways, that's my final reason why many people didn't like this, and so to the closing thoughts. Now you guys can dispute some of the reasons I gave out. I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of reasons why many people didn't like this era of Call of Duty, and well, I didn't fully say all of them. Just want to talk about the three main big points in my opinion that why people didn't like this era. So to reinstate some of the reasons I gave out was one, the movement system, which completely overhauled these games, and well, some of them didn't follow through with it. Only Advanced Warfare did, and the other ones went toned down with it. Second reason, the whole supply drop system, where it just led to more of the pay to win mentality. A third reason, the whole series becoming more competitive and becoming more toxic and sweaty. Those reasonings, I think that's why many people didn't like these type of games. But anyways, I think that's enough for me talking for today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and also to follow my Twitter account. Hope you guys have a nice day. This is Mazer Argo signing out.